Hey, I'm Eric the Pond Digger here, and you caught me on location building a waterfall. So what we're going to do is we're going to slow down for a couple minutes, and we're going to explain some of the styles of waterfall construction and tell you what we do to help naturalize everything. Hopefully show you a few things along the way to help you build your waterfall in a more natural feel. If you'll see here, we have a lot of our character boulders kind of set in place. They're kind of the framework of the overall waterfall. We still have to build up to the top of it, but we're going to show you step by step kind of which rocks went in first and what we're thinking along the way, so you can kind of get inside of our head, okay? So here we go. I like how these angles are connecting, so we're just going to pop this back. I'm not going to really use a lot. Just let's go back about it. That's it. Hold on. Okay, let's talk about the base of the waterfall. We always start from the bottom up, of course, so we can do some stacking of rock. This particular pond, water level is going to be just below this stone, within a half inch or so. And what we've done is we've placed these two frame boulders here as the basis of everything. And we're going to try and get a longer, tall waterfall in between these rocks, and we'll have some kind of neat whitewater effect coming on over these guys. These particular stones right here, as the water splashes in here, you'll have more of a ripple effect coming through this small area and this small area on this side. But you'll see some water splashing on top of these as well. The cool thing about these rocks is we have this nice pink tone in there. It'll look real pretty when it's wet. Also, you'll have a lot of the wildlife will be landing on here, and birds bathing on this and bathing in on this area, because you'll have water coming in, splashing on top of this and on top of this, but the actual water level will be below this rock. So it's going to be a neat effect. I did this rock to kind of break things up and push water in both of these directions. Of course, water's going to be splashing on this and dripping down, but you'll see a lot of movement in these two particular areas.
Okay, so what's the objective here?
Right here. I want to get it nice and level like this.
Oh, like that, straight.
Yeah. Hold on. Okay, that'll do. All right, when you're building a waterfall, I think one of the biggest tips I can give you for construction is sometimes you have to step back and take a look from across the yard, from the destination spot, and just reflect on the stones that you're setting and make sure it looks good from across the way. We're going to show you one more tip from back here. Before we even get the waterfall all the way up to the top, we're going to show you one little trick that we do to make it look good. Shit, I can get this myself. Do you want to get it? Okay. So just one simple rock like this, a nice sized character boulder behind the waterfall box that is, it gives it a little more dimension. So setting a big rock like this behind the waterfall from the very get-go help you set up the composition for your waterfall. Hey, take a look at how much extra liner we have on this waterfall. Oftentimes I see people use too small of a piece of liner. It doesn't give them enough room to set character boulders outside the waterfall. If you build it in too close and put a plant there, the waterfall disappears real quickly. By giving ourselves a lot of extra slack like this, it allows us to place nice character boulders here and not overpower this waterfall. So that's one tip I wanted to make sure you got right here, is use plenty of extra liner, because we can always cut it and we can backfill to this later. So this rock right here I want to talk about for a second. This rock, it's a heavy one. It was problematic. I set it probably 3 or 4 times before I really liked the way it was coming out. So I want you to be aware of that. You might set a stone. If you don't like it, contemplate it and move it if you have to. Move it in several locations until you get the right spot. This rock might look good 6 different ways to Sunday, but take your time and set it in a couple spots. You might find it looks better on this side of the waterfall than that side of the waterfall. I don't know if you noticed, but we set this waterfall stone differently earlier in the video, and we took the time to reposition it, because after I looked at it for half an hour, I wasn't real happy with it. So another pointer, we're going to use, well, first of all, you see how big these rocks are. They're bigger character stones. We have a 30-inch waterfall distance from here to here, so we need some bigger stones to really set this off. If we use all rock, in this size and stacked it all up, it just wouldn't look as natural. Remember, in the wild, or in nature, if you go out walking around in some streams and waterfalls, you'll find that most of the small stuff's been knocked away and the big stuff kind of frames in waterfalls. But we will use some smaller stuff like this to stack in up tight between here, and it'll be below this piece of slate. We're going to use a small piece of slate, little skinny piece, and we're going to frame this guy in right here. And on this side of the waterfall, we're going to break the slate up. We're going to break up the waterfall so it'll kind of rumble over this stone. But I want this section, about a 12-inch section, to have a nice shear to hit this guy, and then it'll bounce off again down into here. So those are some things we're going to do, and I'm just going to rock this in and see how it comes out. As you can see, I just moved this rock into the position where I needed it on the slate. Connecting these rocks like this takes away from the fact that the slate's a skinny piece. But if you line these two guys up like that, it gives it a nice look, and the water will change a little bit. The difference from this point to this point will look a lot different. This will have more of a shear, and this water is going to pick up on this stone and break it up a little bit. If you have, right now I'm having trouble holding this piece of slate into place, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a rock right here, put some weight on the top, kind of hold it into place, and then I can step back and take a look at it and reflect from across the way. I want to point out just how important this little pebble right here is. It's about a half-inch cobble, half-inch by 1-inch cobble. And this rock wasn't quite sitting level like I wanted it to, the top end of it. And this one little rock is getting this to the right section. So actually this little piece right here is very important to the whole waterfall. You can just wedge it up, and then when I come back through with some expanding foam, I'll lock everything into place with the foam, and it'll solidify it and hold it nice and tight. On your spillway stones, you want to throw a level on here and make sure you have it nice and equal like that. If this is slightly at a level, you'll find more water coming out one side than the other. We want to maximize our flow from side to side and front to back. Also, take a note, this level is slightly tipped forward. It can be level or slightly tipped forward. We don't want it tipped back, otherwise the water coming off the edge is not going to be as dramatic. So take a look at the face of this right now. Right now we have about the distance of my fingers like this. You'll have the water spilling off of this in one solid flow. It's going to come down, it's about 30 inches, and it's going to splash behind this rock and kind of froth a little bit. On this side, it's going to come off here. It's wider, and that's important too. You don't want to equal that. You don't want this distance and that distance to be equal on coming down. This section is going to be wider than my fingers. It's going to splash onto this and kind of go all over the place. One cool thing is this is going to shear from this point to this point, but one simple cobble like this sticking out past, once I rock it all in and foam it in place, one cobble like that is almost like putting your finger through it, and you'll have a kind of a shear on this end and shear on this end, and it'll be broken right in the middle. It'll give it a nice different look.